The toughest opponent you're ever going to have to face is that guy in the mirror every morning. It's just that because life is so volatile. And just when you think you have it together, it slips away. Just when you have it in your grasp, it's gone. A lot of people, I think, feel that time is moving by and no one has given them a chance to be the best in their office, be the best in this. And even if you fail, you had the opportunity. And I think that's the most frustrating thing in the world, is not have the opportunity to fail. It drives me crazy. I look at everybody, I look at a guy that's waiting at a table. You think he goes, well, I can't wait to grow up and be a waiter? You know what I mean? Or a guy to sit there moving asphalt. This isn't what he was born, you know, he didn't plan on this. No. So he's like, you know what, I bet I could run this company better than this fella, but he'll never get the opportunity. And that's what I think percolates so much anger and frustration among the masses. It's solely not based on just pure talent. It's maybe a talent that's away from the business, meaning your mindset. If you took that mindset and applied it to most professions that you feel that you're really, capable of doing well, like driving, and you can will yourself into being a really excellent driver, race car, truck driver, whatever. So it isn't as though like I'm just a great driver. It's the determination that I'm preaching about. It's the blind ambition, the willingness to accept failure, grind it up, swallow it, and keep going. Not swallow it, throw up, and get sick and turn off all your aspirations and ambitions. It's just the opposite. I think I was determined. I think I did it around 1965, and I wasn't even Sylvester Stallone, which is my real name, but I was using a Christian name called Mike. And it's signed Mike at the bottom of the painting. And what it is this road. A single man holding a single suitcase, tattered coat, young, walking into a city. In the background, the city is an inferno. That represented the future. You're either going to go in there and succeed, or you're going to burst into flames and become dust. And as I'm going into the city, the road behind me is disintegrating, which represents there's no retreat. If you commit to this, it's do or die. This is a occupational suicide mission, let's say. And you either hit your target or there is no reverse. Like you're driving a car, there is no reverse. There's only one way in, and it's got to succeed or you crash and burn. So that is the way I felt about it. There was no retreat, there was no option, there was no exit door. So that's why I think a lot of actors have a very, very difficult time in making it. It's not the talent. There's so many talented people. I could go to a high school play and go, God, there's some really talented people here. It's when you walk off that stage and you walk onto the stage of professionalism, that's where it gets serious. It's one thing to watch a person, oh, that's a nice show. It's another thing for someone to pay you hard cash and they're going to put you through the ringer to prove that you deserve it. And you have to keep reinforcing yourself nonstop that you're the real deal, that you have something special. People have got to realize that they're not alone, that life is incredibly complex and a terrible mystery. It's the thing that can take you the highest, like love. Love is the only emotion that can take you to the highest pinnacles and drop you to hell. The only emotion in the world. And I found that the more love you try to give to other people and stop being so hell-bent on persecuting yourself and feeling loveless. It just makes you feel, God, lighter, better. I grew up in a really bad household. It was tough. Everyone was extremely unhappy with who they were. My mother and father, they certainly weren't parents. It truly affected the way I interacted with people. I was kind of a loner because of that reason. I would find myself just sitting there procrastinating. And then I would get up in the mirror and I'd look at myself. I said, you know what you are? You're a lazy piece of fucking useless. I hate guts. You'd rather sit there and do nothing. You know why? Because you're a coward. And I would tear, like I'm literally fighting myself, challenging, humiliating myself. And it became, it's like me and my father talking. I don't feel like it. I'll break every bone in your face. Go and sit on that goddamn chair and do what you can do. I don't give a shit if it's bad. Can't be channel. You gotta, I'm telling you, I'm a product of intimidation. I know what intimidation is and I know what it can do. I felt so worthless and I was so embarrassed. I realized you people that you thought were your friends are not your friends. When the good times go away, that's when you find out your family is so important. Because I'm telling you, the ship sailed on me. It was pretty bad. But I took all that in, and I thought, I'm done. And I thought I was definitely done. People don't realize how impressionable and vulnerable when you're young. You are, like I said, soft clay. Believe it or not, I spent the first 4.5, 5 years in a boarding house in Jackson Heights. And for a lot of people that don't know what a boarding house is, it's basically a couple of bedrooms and run by an older woman. And it's not a flop house, but it's transient. Salesmen coming in, stewardesses, people that are on the move. And I'd sit at this table with adults, and I'm 4 years old, and no one talked to me. And I just look around and I'm going, I have no one to really relate to. And then the next day, they'd be gone. And it'd be another stranger and another stranger. My mother would say, the only reason you're here is because the hanger didn't work. Or bouncing down those steps didn't cause you to get lost. And she said that, you know, truthfully, Sylvester, and you know when you're young, you're kind of naive and foolish, you go, maybe everyone's mother is like this. I never really hung out with other people, so I didn't know what a happy home was. This is normal. I don't know if I ever told you, but I was shot once in the arm. What happened is I went to a church dance. I didn't know anyone there. And this is the story of my life in a nutshell. For some reason, there's a group of guys over there, tough-looking guys. I'm alone. I don't know anyone in this dance. Maybe there's 500 people. Of all the 500 people, they zero in on me. Guy walks over to me, a big Italian guy. He's like, hey, get out of here, or we're gonna smack you in the face. I'm looking around. I didn't do anything. He hits me hard. And I went, whoa. And I'm telling you, I went around, I'm looking around for help. There's no one there. And I put my tail between my legs like an abject coward. And I started walking away. And I was probably 3 or 4 blocks away, going past this parking lot. And I stopped. I said, I can't live with this. I cannot live the rest of my life knowing that some stranger came up and hit me hard for nothing. So you got to do something. And I said, what? Go back in. Go back in. So I turn around to go back into the church. There's the dance. The music is going. I see this guy. He's standing with his thing, and he's laughing, mocking, like, oh, yeah. I turn around, bang, I crack him. But he was so big, it barely hurt him, and he comes roaring at me. So a priest gets in the way. He hits the priest, and then they all start chasing after me. And I'm jumping over fences, they're jumping over fences. They knew where I lived, and they were waiting and waiting. And then one night I slipped out, and they followed me, and I went going to this bowling alley, and I started running, and they shot me through the tricep.
Oh
and
my gosh.
Yeah,
Wait, how old were you?
16. In New York, I used to make $39 a week, and this is in 1972. That's not much. So you really learn, okay, I can afford some cottage cheese and one raw egg. You know, you eventually figured out how to get along like that. I'm selling the coat because I can't stand it anymore. Such a bad movie. I had this one coat, and that coat literally was my house. And I would sleep at the bus station, Port Authority bus station, or outside the post office in the dead of winter, and boy, it was cold. So that coat saved my life. Old sheepskin coat from Afghanistan. Never give up, never give in, never give out. Just keep it going, because you never know what's behind the next corner. You'd be shocked. Maybe it's 10 miles away. That's the biggest lesson, is that don't give up on yourself, ever. Ego. There, I said it. It's ego. And that's the fuel. I'm very competitive with other people, but even more with myself, and that's a drag, because I can rationalize not doing it in competition with other people, but you can't rationalize it yourself. You just feel like, come on, push back. Don't let nature have its way so soon, Try to go in uncharted waters. So that's where I go. A lot of fuel is anger from childhood, which I know I'd say 98% of us have that. That is the fuel for creativity. I think if you had, every artist has something going on inside that they have to purge. Not a one-time thing, not like, oh yeah, I want to doodle on a horse, but they're constantly evoking different thoughts and insights and feelings and rage, mood. I think if all the actors and painters and sculptors were normal, there would be no art. Everyone would say, why am I putting my soul out there to be criticized? So there is an angst that makes for greatness. So keep on angsting. Because regret breeds fear. Oh my God, if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. And I'm so afraid of that feeling, because I know what it's like. Because you can't fix it. You can't fix yesterday. You can only fix tomorrow. And so it's one of that and redemption. I would say, sadly, redemption it comes along very infrequently. You have forms of redemption, but you're never whole. You never really purge yourself of memories. You can sort of play music loud and be surrounded by hundreds of friends, but then the music goes and you're living in a quiet room and you have that. Mm-hmm. But you just gotta go. That's part of life. Regrets, sadness, discipline, depression, it's all part of life. There is a poem written, and I think it really sums up my life, by Robert Frost. It goes, we all dance around in a ring and suppose, but only the answer sits in the middle of the nose. Mm-hmm. You're never going to get to it. You're going to go, what is life? Dancing around, I suppose, I think, you have a philosophy, everyone has a different thing, but no one has what is life, because there's 8 billion people, there's 8 billion different interpretations of what life is. But unfortunately, we don't stay here permanently. It's a cycle. And the greatest men in the world have died. Not just Rocky Balboa, but I mean really important men. Great physicists, scientists, doctors, heroes, Galileo, the greatest warriors. There's one thing, I say the one line in the movie, that life is undefeated. You pass. Time is undefeated. Dying is easy, living is hard. Life is a one-strike baseball game. You get one chance at life, and you better fight to keep it. You just don't, I think I'll try it again. No, you don't get a chance to try it again. I don't care what people say. You are the product of what came before you. In other words, influences. This podcast, there was a person who did that. I like to borrow a little from that. Then I went. So you're always taking things, like Picasso said, and you find your own style. No one's born with like, oh, this genius style. They are the product of many influences. Okay. I knew that going to films, I was looking for definitely a male role model.
Right, yeah.
100%. And those role models were never really what I call good actors. They would be not even cowboys. It would be always mythical figures. Hercules, the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Jason in the Argonauts, you know what I mean? Yeah. Fantasy, dealing with creatures. So mythology has been my go-to fantasy my whole life. Matter of fact, I believe that my entire career is based on that. In other words, Rambo was mythological. So Rambo is kind of like what a kind of weird hero, but he was almost a superhero in times, because how could he survive these battles? He has no skill. He's a terrible fighter. He's this and that. But there was just something that propelled him. And that's my fantasy. Like people always rising above their abilities. I think everybody here put under the right circumstances, their children or their wife are in dire trouble, put their life on the line. I don't give you, a kid falls in a tire cage, you wouldn't think twice about jumping in. Just is. So everyone has the hero syndrome in them. They do. You just have to push the right button. What I wanted to do was just find something that would make me heroic. For some reason, I always wanted to garner some sympathy or something, and because I wasn't getting it at home, and then I became sort of a thief, because I would, whatever I could find, for example, in my father's pocket, to be like $5 or $6. Believe it or not, it was kind of dangerous. I would take the money, let it be 5 ones or quarters or whatever, and go to school and give it to people. I just thought it was impossible for me to do anything that would be just considered regular, normal. I just didn't think I had the brain for it or the discipline. And I had such a kind of fixation on doing something heroic or special. Like I thought, I want to be a great coach. I never played a sport in my life, so it's like that. And then I thought, I'd like to be a great horse trainer. I didn't have any horses. I cannot do anything normal, and it bothered me. It really bothered me. I would be so ADD and so consumed with daydreaming, where I would be sitting there and in the class. I went through 3.5 years of college. I don't remember one day. I went to the Ring Theater and tried to do some acting, and they go, you really don't have it, but why don't you learn to work backstage? Those important rejections and failures to be the best thing that ever happened, because I'm not a perfectionist. A lot of it was sloppy and useless, but I knew I would get it the second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th time around. I think the most important thing in anything we do, not just writing, anybody, is just get to the end zone. I don't care how. And then you can fix it second time around. If you read my first few screenplays, they're atrocious, really, really atrocious. But I kept going, and I kept going, I kept going. So you only can get better. You can't get worse. You know, you're a bad writer. You're not going to become a worse writer. You're going to become a better writer if you just keep it up. And that's when I realized that I'm so lucky that I failed as an actor.
There's a point where you're not getting it. The ideas are not coming. And if they are coming, they're not that interesting. And you start to be beat up on yourself. It starts to become a painful process writing, because nothing's working. You just got to keep going. You got to keep going. And I hate the process. People say, the writing is wonderful. Writing is like having your fingernails pulled out. It's hard, because when it's not working, it's torture. You know what I mean? Show me a healthy-looking writer. You know, they're in their head. Yet, what comes out of there is so, when it's done well, it's really their soul. I mean, that's why writing to me is by far the hardest of all the arts, I think.
42 screenplays, a lot of screenplays. And I would say maybe 20 of them are unreadable. But the fact is you did it, you completed it, you went from beginning to end. And that's the only reason I'm here today. When I started to rely upon other people's works or suggestions from certain advisors, this is good for your career, this is that, try this and try that, and you're trusting their instincts, that's where you make your mistakes. Because if you don't feel it, like I told you, like, you know, when I saw your mother, something was like, boom, if you don't have it committed, say, I love this, I would do this for free, and I recommend every actor to do this, and every artist, please learn every aspect of your business. First of all, the business of business. Learn to direct, try to learn to produce. If you don't even do it, learn how to do it. Because if you're just a solitary performer, then you're always going to be at someone's behest. They'll tell you what to do. I found that to be the most important lesson, is trying to learn every aspect of this business. Don't be so complacent and think, oh, I'm just going to be a one-finger piano player.
Right.
I want to be a 10-finger piano player. The lesson lies in learning, and then by teaching people what you know, you also be taught, because they'll tell you things. So the lesson lies in learning, and by teaching, you'll be taught. I know that's very ambiguous, but that's what it's all about. Not thinking you know everything, because how boring would that life be? No matter what people say, we need stories. We absolutely need them to escape from us, because we know pretty much what our life is about. And it's nice to see that other things are being portrayed that are similar to our dilemma. And that's what I think, there's the connection from cinema. I can't believe at times when I've heard, oh, cinema doesn't influence people, it doesn't do that. Cinema is the most influential system of communication. The only thing more powerful is war. There's nothing that can get to you more than cinema. I just didn't have the bones to be a Shakespearean actor. I think it's very important for someone, artiste, to know what his strength is, but more importantly, to know what your weakness is. And I realize there's other people that are more gifted, that have better vocal quality to play that sort of drama. No matter what. If we would spend every weekend talking about films. I got a job as an usher after 4 years of college. You know, why? Because you want to learn about films, be an usher. But not just standing there tearing tickets, watching those films over and over and over. Then you start to see the magic. I would watch MASH, Robert Altman, very good writing, and try to copy that. And then through copying, eventually you develop your own style. But I needed a format, I needed a teacher. So the teacher became the movie theater and the student became the usher. Whatever job you may have, whatever your profession is, you want to go like, I'm as good as him. I would see every actor and say, I'm better than him. I'm not. But I go, I am. I'm going to use that. That's what's going to inspire me to try to do it. So I thought, what if I wrote a movie about that kind of guy, that he felt that I could have really been somebody if somebody loved me. And now every young actor I work with, I say, you better look at making films with, you have about 10 bullets. Everyone has got to hit a target now. You just can't go out there and be sloppy. And if I see you come on the set holding pages, you're now learning your lines because you think it's fresh in your mind. That doesn't work that way. It's a skill set. Acting is a skill set. You must not know your lines. You have to understand what they mean. And that takes time. Just like in life, it takes time to understand people. You just don't get it like that. And I would say that's the biggest thing I try to pass on to people. I said, pretend this is your last film. Would you be this sloppy? Would you be this casual? Would you show up 3 hours late? I doubt it. And that's kind of like sunk into a few people. Rocky Balboa to me was the best thing I ever did because nobody wanted it. I was done. I was finished in the business completely. Studios would say, you're done. Nobody likes you anymore. It was over. Who's going to really see a 60-year-old boxer coming off of Rocky V, which was a failure? I said, but I'm telling you, this is not about boxing. This is about the relief of grief, moving on in life. And so if you say what film I'm most proud of, without a doubt, is Rocky Balboa.
Didn't you turn down $360K for the screenplay to Rocky because they didn't want you to be in it, right?
No, I was flat broke. I mean, seriously, done. But it depends how well you know yourself. I knew my personality that if I sold it, that was probably $1 million plus by today's dollars, a millionaire. And someone else did it, and it was successful, I would have never forgiven myself. I would have been a broken, embittered man for the rest of my life. So I realized we have in our entire futures about 3 or 4 serious crossroads, and that was my first one. That's a real serious crossroad where this is life altering. And I said, money, it's not about money. I know I will be destroyed and I will destroy everyone around me. I'll be such a miserable human being for selling out. This is what the whole movie was about. It's not selling out. I just know how I work. I know what my engine will do. And I would have been, I don't want to get overly dramatic, but I would have been dead. I wouldn't have survived it. I mean it. I would have just been so miserable that my life would have just spiraled. I know it, because I sold out. And I said, no, because when you're broke, I actually mastered the art of poverty for a while. You figure it out. All right, we have spaghetti one day a week and this and that. I managed, and I still had this blatant optimism. But if I had sold out, and I knew it.
Since I walked out of that trailer the first time on those cold streets in Philadelphia, and I knew this was like the moment of truth. And they said, Sylvester, you ready? I said, no, but Rocky is. Almost seems like a dream state. And quite often people will say, God, that must have been incredible. I said, yeah, but I was never there. And now when I sit back and I reflect on it, what an incredible miracle. Every day I truly miss that character so much. I tell you, sometimes I could just cry because I'll never have a voice like that again where I can just speak whatever I feel in my heart. That's the one thing I'll always cherish about that character, because if I say it, you won't believe it. But when Rocky said it, it was the truth.
Rambo was way, way ahead of its time in exposing the psychological challenges our soldiers face. The scene is so powerful, yet heartbreaking.
So true. I'll give you a little insight on that. So, Rambo, the way it was written, he dies. Troutman shoots him. I want him to shoot me. He said, you made me, you killed me. I don't want to do it, and I make him pull the trigger. And I die in slow motion. I said, I can't do this. I said, there's too many guys out there like Rambo with PTSD that are they're jumping into the subway at 20,000 a year, just killing themselves because they can't cope. So I go, that's not the message. That's the only way out, is to die. And so I put together all these letters and quotes and things and put in whatever I wanted to add to this speech. Afterwards, I did it. There was a Navy SEAL there. I go, you gave us respect. The director went crazy. He goes, okay, now do the one where you shoot yourself. I go, no. He goes, yeah, you have to. I said, I'm not doing it. And that's not the message I'm leaving. I get sued.
You got sued?
I got sued.
There was a time there where
I was very strict Catholic, and then when I got to Hollywood, and all of a sudden you're given the key to the candy stores, and temptation abounds, and I started to believe my own publicity. And no question, I admit it, I just lost my way. But every time I came back to Rocky, I was given a new shot in the arm, a new reawakening, and then I would abuse it again. And finally, it led to about 12 years of I just was spiraling down, and finally I said, I gotta stop. I have to get back to basics. And I really decided to take things out of my own hands and put it in God's hands, because I always felt I was chosen to do something. I was never a writer. I was never an exemplary student. All of a sudden, one day, I started writing Rocky. I wrote it in 3 days, and it wins the Oscar. And I cannot assume that I did this all on my own. I really do not believe that for a second.
It's kind of shocking, because therein lies a terrible attribute that people, actually it's a character flaw, it's not an attribute, where you tend to seek out revenge. I told you so, I told you so,
Right.
I told you so. So now you become a bit more belligerent. I warned you of this and that. And it's like a fighter after having won a victory, you're standing over your opponent like this. You don't need to do that. You
Right.
won, you knocked out, you proved your point. That to me was my biggest problem. And it took years to work that out, because
Right.
you open your mouth up and you burn a few bridges, and that
Were
was
you-
foolish. Mostly critics.
Critics. Okay.
Mostly critics who said you couldn't do it, this and that, or there's certain ways that you come into this business, and I came in a very obtuse way, so I wasn't exactly everyone's favorite. I'm like an anomaly. So I didn't work my way up, in other words. Some actors say, oh, De Niro did this, and Pacino went to that class, and they worked their way up. They earned it. You're supposed to, hopefully, just let it go, because you won, you got the prize. If you sit there and flaunt it, that's what's really horrible, and that's what, like, a lot of guys make that. And I see it happening, and I go, oh man, I want to give this guy a call and say, just take your win and leave. Don't sit there and grind and make this critic's a fool and that critic's a fool. And it's not true. It's just, that's not how the business works. You've had critics since they were doing plays of Antigone back in, ancient Greece. It's always been that way. You have personality, then you have character. Personality is what you copy your father, you copy your mother.
Yeah.
She speaks a certain way. You say, oh, you have the same accent. That's personality.
Right.
Character is like looking into a playpen of 10 dogs. Each one is different. It's the same litter,
Right.
but there's 10 different personalities, and that's called character. And I'm telling you, I never doubted for a second that I didn't fit in. Inspiration for the line, nobody hits as hard as life. I was talking to my son about what the future is all about, and for some reason that came up. No one punches harder than life. And I thought, wow, that is true. That is true. Life is undefeated. Can't beat it. You just have to go on the defensive. I realized that family is everything, and that's the greatest award you can get, because at the end, when you're just laying there on your deathbed, you're going to be basically judged on how you raised your kids and what you've left behind. So finally, they get to understand that they have a caring father, that movies are wonderful, but they pale in comparison to the movie of life, which is making them go on into the future and be very, very successful. That's my duty. That's my mission.
I think that personal ambition is worth fighting for. It really is something that if you don't fight for it, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. And if you regret it, you're going to be an unhappy person. If you're an unhappy person, it's going to affect your family. So you can see the chain of command all the way down, that it can be pretty devastating. Fighting for family starts with you. So you got to fight for peace of mind.
If I could go back in time and talk to myself, give myself what advice? Got to start looking forward, way forward. Even when you have no money, look forward. See the house, see the car, see all the things that you can accomplish now. And eventually, if you're lucky, you accomplish them. But plan ahead.